Riana Milne is a globally certified life, dating, and relationship coach and author with a specialization in helping individuals and couples heal from trauma and cultivate healthy love. She's also a certified mindfulness coach and educational speaker. With over 20 years of experience, she's the creator of Dating to Mating, relationship rescue programs, and has appeared on major networks such as NBC, CBS, and Fox. And for some reason, she's been kind enough to join me today. Rihanna has a reputation for clear, compassionate guidance and practical strategies for transforming emotional pain into personal power. Her own story has deeply informed her mission to help others navigate the complexities of intimacy and mental wellness. Her website, rianamilne.com, I'll put the links into the notes, says a hub for coaching, books, courses, and speaking engagements. One of the things when you go on the website is there's so much stuff there. You need to dedicate some time to getting the most of it. There's just so much there. I think Rihanna's overly generous with what she gives away, but anyway, we can talk about that. Thank you, first of all, for joining us from sunny Florida.
Thanks for having me, Andrew. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
I wanted to take you back just a little bit, if that's okay, just to your teenage and formative years. What were they like? Can you draw a link between the person you were then and the person you are today?
Sure. Well, I grew up outside of Philadelphia, a family of 5 children. I was number 4. And I remember my mom telling me once she really wished I was a boy, and she had to go back and try again for her other son that she wanted. So that kind of wraps up my parental situation. No, my dad, who is very emotionally loving, was not home much. We did not know it, but he was CIA and FBI. So he couldn't tell us where he was. But when he was home, he was very loving and fun and kind of carefree, and would say hi and help with every stranger, very loving man, very successful man, a colonel in the Air Force and a top athlete in our country. So very interesting dynamic. I was pretty shy as being the fourth. The other kids got a lot of time and attention from my mom. And then during middle school, I remember being terribly bullied. And I happened to win a modeling scholarship in 8th grade. And that kind of changed my life because my family couldn't afford to send me to modeling school. But I was happy to win the scholarship. And then I started modeling for department stores and then a big radio station out of Philadelphia, where by 15, 16, I'm working with top entertainers. And one of my favorite jobs was working with a group, Queen. Oh, wow. I did the entire encore with Freddie Mercury at the Philadelphia Tower Theater for the Night of the Opera tour. So it was an interesting developmental years. I just wanted to get out of high school. I was smart. I did very well in English and writing. And I had a mentor that said, you should be writing books. So I am an author today of 13 books and a couple #1 bestsellers. So he was a nice influence on my life. But the reason then I got into the trauma work was at 16, my very best childhood friend was killed by a drunk driver. And it was hard for me to process that loss. And I asked my mom if I could go to a counselor. And she said, no one in this family will ever go to a counselor. Then I said, then I will grow up to become one. And that's when I decided what my life journey was going to be, to help others that were going through pain. So that's how I started my journey.
Why do you think your mom was so reluctant? Did you see it as a admittance of failure, or was it, no, we deal with things in-house sort of thing? What was it that...
Yeah, I mean, my mom grew up as a debutante. Her best friend was Grace Kelly.
Oh, gosh.
And, they were in athletics and sports, and, they all wanted the ideal family. That was kind of the 50s and 60s, where women took great pride in their family's accomplishments. Right. So that was the reflection on them. It was just kind of the times and how it was in America growing up. So, yeah, I decided, yes, I would. So I turned to books. I was reading the Dalai Lama and Deepak Chopra and Tony Robbins and Wayne Dyer, anything about mindset and spirituality. And so I was taking mindset studies on my own very early at 17, 18, 19 years old. And then in my early 20s, I started teaching actually at a college in Pennsylvania for professional development, and taught mindset for business and mindset for success in life. So by 26, I opened up my own model and talent school and agency with my first month's rent. I did go to Penn State for broadcast communication and ended up marrying my college sweetheart, who unfortunately was not a very good man. But fortunately, I had two wonderful daughters. So, and now I'm a grandma of 6. So, yes. So you find the good from the bad and just keep on moving forward, you know? Yeah.
Do you think it was the genetics you got from your dad that gave you the? I mean, even in a couple of answers, there's just so much energy in the answers. Just I was at Penn State, and then I was a model, and then I opened a modeling school, then I was counselling, and I was doing. Well, okay, I'm talking to 4 people or 1 person.
Yeah, I
You
have
had a dad that was
beside me.
Yeah. So, what do you think it was that gave you the determination to do all those things?
It's funny. Determination is one of the 7 Ds lessons that my father taught me. He said, "Hon, if you have the 7 Ds in life, you can do anything successfully and reach your dreams." So it was desire, dedication, determination, drive, dare to dream big. Devotion is spiritual devotion, discipline. And there was one more, but I might have forgotten what it is. So yes, that there's an early lesson, and I use that every day in business. And I raised 2 very successful girls. I did marry early at age 21. I guess that's what we did back in the days. That wasn't very smart, but that was the way it was. And he ended up stealing $200,000 from my mother, he and his father. So I divorced thinking I could do better by myself. And we had a bankruptcy. So I started my model and talent agency with only my first month's rent and determined to make it. And within 6 months, I won the Educational Excellence Award for my program. And it was an international award. And then within the year, I won Model and Talent School of the Year. So my classes started with 4 people. And within the year, I had 24 in a waiting list. So that became my vocation, which worked because I had to pick up my kids from school and drop them off. And working moms know, how are you going to get a job working 9 to 5 when you have kids to pick up at 3 o'clock? So, I just, whatever came to me, and this is what we call mindset work, what can I do? And I'll figure it out. Right. So that's the mindset that I've been living my whole life with.
And what was it that pulled you more deeply into the more emotional, the trauma, unhealed trauma, those sort of, because they're all individually massively difficult topics. Yeah. And I always think it has to be a calling to do that. It can't just be, I know what I'll do. I'll get a job being a trauma counselor. I think it must be a calling.
Yes, we all go through very difficult times. And that's what, when you're young, from in utero, if you have a very upset mother, the fetus is upset, right? So from pre-birth all the way up to age 23, that's childhood trauma stages there.
Yeah.
I lost my best friend. I was not able to get help. My father was rarely home. I was horribly bullied and teased in middle school. So those were things that I had gone through. And then my Penn State roommate was murdered by her boyfriend. Unfortunately, I was 1 year ahead of her, and I knew he was not a very good guy. He was abusive verbally, emotionally, and she did break up while I was there. And then I graduated and left, and she ended up getting back with him. And I went for a visit to visit her, and she had a broken leg. She had gained probably 75 pounds. I said, "You've got to get out of this." She goes, "I'm going to go home, see if I can go see my mom and go stay there when my cast comes off." I said, "If you can't, you come live up with me, and I'll help you move out, but don't do it alone." And unfortunately, she went back after the visit with her mom. He said, "Sure, come down, stay here." And she ends up dead that weekend. So that was a huge loss for me as well. So that she experienced was called love trauma. I went through a life trauma with a death loss. Trauma is also bullying. Anybody who's ever been bullied knows that is trauma. Your parental dynamics is trauma. So there's challenges with trauma our entire life. So the question is, how do you deal with it? How do you heal the past childhood trauma dynamics so it doesn't impact you in life, love, or business as an adult? So it's all mindset work and being able to process that. Yeah. So later in life, I went back to get my master's in psychology, applied clinical and counseling psychology, became a licensed mental health counselor in year 2000. So I've had a private practice now going on 26 years. And then I went through coaching certification in 2009 and 10 because I love the coaching model. It's very educational. I created my two best-selling books around that curriculum. And I have notebooks for singles and couples that are like 150 pages that my clients will do along with me. And it's a team effort in coaching. What they write and tell me is how then I know how to teach them to heal and move forward. So coaching is very much a team effort, where counseling is almost like the counselor's up here and the client's down here, and they just speak their woes and not much gets done, So I've always loved the coaching model much more. It's more interactive.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. So I went to see a therapist last year. So my mum passed away. I lost my job. Then this year my dad passed away, and it was all sort of never quite sure how I wasn't really, and this sounds terrible to admit, I wasn't really feeling anything. So, and I went to see a therapist, and we talked a lot, as you do, but I sort of ended the whatever you want to call it, relationship with the therapist, just because it didn't feel like it was going further than my head, if that makes sense. I could sort of feel. I thought, well, there must be something. There's something sort of almost stuck in a way, almost like a physical. I'm blocked in somewhere or other, and I couldn't sort of figure out how to get, and I still can't, how to get past it. How to, because I guess there's no, maybe there is, but there's no. I don't think there's one way to grieve, but you sort of you have this sort of societal view of what grief looks like, and if that's not what I'm experiencing, am I failing at grief? But then I don't want to get almost lost in the grief, if you're getting stuck in the grief.
Yeah.
When sorry, this sounds like I'm asking for free counseling, but when people come to you, I know it's very hard to say what are they typically looking for, but what is it that people are hoping to change when they come to you? Because that must be what it's about. It's about,
most of my clients have ongoing anxiety.
Yeah,
that's a sign that trauma has not been healed. They have bouts of depression.
Mm-hmm.
They know they're in a toxic relationship, but they're almost love addicted. They can't get out, or they break up and go back and break up and go back, hoping it will be better, and it never is. This is what we call RRS, relationship repetition syndrome. They want to be more successful in life, but they feel stuck. They feel stuck in their negativity. There's a lot of mental rumination, like worrying, what could I have done different? Maybe I shouldn't have said this. Maybe if I did this instead, that's rumination over why the relationship didn't work, or someone might break up and leave them and they can't get back out there and date. They kind of like idolize the person they were married to, when really they weren't a very good guy with what they did, or woman. So, it's all different types of things, but like you said, I still felt kind of stuck. So there's something about making sense mentally, but still feeling trauma in the body, which we call synamic, right? Synamic, that we have to heal the brain and the body, both. So people that are stuck, we call that they're living in the dark side, they're where anxiety and depression is, and they can't find this level of joy, like pure joy and excitement for life or happiness. So that's what I help people do. I help them get their joy back. I help them start thinking about, what are my dreams? What do I want for my future? What kind of business do I want to do? What kind of partner do I want to have in my life? Or is this a year I just want to do all business and not have a partner? that's great too. But what makes you feel excited to get up every day? What is your passion? What is your joy? So we go very deeply into all life areas. How are you with friendships? How is your financial situation? What is your own self-esteem? If you're a parent, how's your parent-child relationships going? So we look at everything and heal the whole life wheel, and then get them moving into the direction that they truly desire.
And how do you find the time splits between the direct coaching and then the amazing programs you've developed?
Coaching is my programs. They're 4 to 6 months. They're all trademarked. These are from my deep research in the psychological journals that I put in my book, Love Beyond Your Dreams, Break Free of Toxic Relationships to Have the Love You Deserve. That's 400 pages. Before AI was out there helping you write books, I did it the old-fashioned way. And then Live Beyond Your Dreams is about the mindset for success. So they're meant to go together. That's part of the curriculum. And then the 150-page workbooks. One is Relationship Rescue for couples and Dating to Mating for singles. And I do work with both straight and LGBTQ clients and singles or couples from 16. And my oldest couple, the gentleman, was 83. So there's no age that I will turn away. And yes, people do find love in their 70s and their 80s. So it's really nice to see this transformation going on. And then therapy is the traditional talk therapy model, but I am more directive, when I say that if you're going to sign up and meet with me, I am going to be directive and tell you what I think and give you my suggestions. And we're going to brainstorm together what you can do and what repercussions. It's a more active therapy model, which we call solution focused. Because when I was going through my master's in psychology, one of my professors said, I want you to go to 5 therapists and tell me which style you like the best. And my paper was, I like none of them. Nobody says anything. They just sit there and they say nothing. And then their only thing is, how do you feel about that? Well, I feel about that. I walk upset and angry. Like, why am I wasting my time just talking? Why aren't you giving me any suggestions? So I didn't like that model from day one. And my professor said, you are adamant and passionate about this solution-focused model. Do that because you'll be very good at it, So that's what I've been doing for 26 years. And most people love it. Some people want the hand-holding, where they get to talk the whole time. That's fine. But most people I found want some ideas to feel better as soon as possible. Yeah.
Do you find that people are sometimes surprised at the unhealed trauma they discover when they come to you?
Yes. Most people think they don't have childhood trauma. When I first did the childhood trauma checklist that all our listeners can find on my website free under quizzes, is a very simple 10-question checklist I did with my clients, and they could easily identify, I've been bullied. My dad was not home much. And I remember asking, where's dad? When's daddy coming home? My mom was like, well, I don't know where he is. I'm like, well, why not? Is he okay? This is kind of upsetting for a child. So you go through the list and you see which ones you have. And then through my questioning method, I can see how severe that is. And if they're still stuck from those subconscious behavioral patterns and norms that they endured as children as an adult. Like, because of that situation, I could have had abandonment issues, right? Because my parent was not home much, but, I wanted him to be home because he was a great guy, but I missed him, so, that abandonment could have been in my relationships, but they're not, I'm very comfortable when my partner leaves because I know we got each other, so that's mindset work. So it does impact how your love relationships are today from what you went through as children. Now, when I came out with that in 2012, my research showed 90% felt that they had some of the childhood trauma checklist. Okay. Then it became a joke with some of the other coaches I worked with. Yeah, the other 10% are narcissists and nothing's ever wrong with them, So I said, hey, that's a pretty good point. Right. Everything's always wrong with our partner. So the in 2021, though, new research came out after COVID saying 100% of us have childhood trauma.
Wow.
So there might have been a deeper study and more research. But in my triple masters of psychology, we never heard the terms childhood trauma. Yeah, that was never even talked about. And it was after one of my breakups that, the man turned to me and said, I don't know what's the matter with me. I sabotage everything I love. And I said, I don't know either, but I'm going to figure it out. And that's when my research began. And a lot of that research went into my love book and then into the notebooks, because I'm like, wow, I'm up to 400 pages. I can't keep writing this book. It's phenomenal. It's called The Guidebook to Love. But I am going to start writing it notebooks, and this will be the healing portion. This is the information. This is the healing portion of that. So that's all meant to go together. So that's how that came to be.
I was going to ask about sabotage and self-sabotage. Now, I don't use the wrong words, but do you is it true that some people self-sabotage by almost, I hate to say the word, intentionally choosing the wrong partners or the emotionally unavailable partner or whatever, because I don't know, is it because they don't feel worthy of love? They don't love themselves? Is that where? And
Yeah.
how do people get past the self-sabotaging side of things?
You're hitting a lot of that, Andrew. That's absolutely right. Their self-love, self-esteem is low. They don't have that faith and confidence that their partner really loves them. They question everything. They put doubts or gaslight their partner by saying, that's not true. That's not true. I didn't, gaslighting is a very toxic behavioral pattern. So that's a sign of low self-esteem. And there's other things, jealousy. They identify the top 10 traumas, and then what are the results of those traumas? There's 24 different patterns I've come up with. I'm sure there's more, but one is jealousy, by not feeling, personal self-esteem and confidence, or hearing the verbal messages like, you're no good, I'm not paying for your college, you're too dumb to go to college. Things like this, these verbal messages stay in your mind. And this is part of the childhood trauma part. Impulsivity ruins relationships. Someone who's very high in impulse is someone that's grown up usually in lack. They didn't have the things that other kids had, and maybe they did succeed as an adult, and it's like, oh, I want that shiny red sports car. Maybe I can't afford it, but I'll figure it out. I'm going to buy it without telling my wife. And then they go and buy the car, and then they're paying for it emotionally and financially for years, and that's an impulse buy. Or a partner that's a chronic cheater, that's high impulse, and that ruins relationships. So this is where the narcissist will fall under. They do what they want to do without the empathy of someone else, that they're even considering their partners. People pleasing is something a lot of women do, overly pleasing, even at their own detriment, because they probably grew up with a difficult mom or dad or an alcoholic parent. So there's no yelling or fighting in the home. They will people please and do anything they can to keep the parent calm and keep the household calm. That usually falls on the oldest sibling. It's like getting the kids up, ready for school, making the lunches, getting them out to the bus stop. And you might not hear much, but you'll hear thanks, hun, from the mom and nothing else. But at least it wasn't a fight or yelling that morning. So that's how they got love, by people pleasing. And then later in life, I had a couple come in, and the woman's there, I do everything for him and my kids, and he never does anything back for me, and I never hear I love you. And her boundaries were so stretched that, he goes, well, I didn't ask you to do all those things. So he wasn't even acknowledging, or with thank yous or anything she was doing. It was just so his norm that she just wants to do everything herself. So, there was no communication, obviously, between the two either. So I have to teach a lot of communication skills to put these couples back on track so they can communicate through issues like this and, do better boundaries. She needed better boundaries. Now, someone that has abandonment issues may have anxiety when their partner is gone. They may be the cheaters. They may be reaching out to talk to someone else if their partner's not giving them enough attention, these types of things. Then there's perfectionism. That can be a result of childhood trauma, blaming behavior. It's not me. She did it. She's wrong. Da, 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 da. And a lot of cheap drama in their relationships. They're not comfortable with it being safe. They have to create some drama for excitement. So those are just a few of the patterns that show up when childhood trauma is not healed.
I think one of the key things you said then, not all key, but was how we struggle, or many people struggle to communicate. And I think that goes back to, obviously, childhood, where we never really taught how we should be communicating within a relationship, what
Right.
good intimacy looks like, what a fulfilling sex life looks like, for goodness sake. And then as we get older and older, or in a relationship for longer and longer, I think that it almost becomes harder to communicate. If you haven't talked about it generally, when you look at each other and you've been together for 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, you think, oh gosh, how do I start that conversation? And I think it's really hard to know how, because all of us are fearful of being rejected or mocked or challenged or belittled or whatever. So we hold the communication within. So how, I mean, it's maybe an unfair question, so sorry, but how do you guide couples towards safer and better communication? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, that's a very important question, because I teach that lesson usually is a coaching full hour or hour and a half. And I do that very early on because it helps put out the fires. The first thing is that they have to learn a whole new communication style without nagging, without blame, without put downs, without verbal abuse, without stonewalling and shutting down. There's all these toxic patterns that couples have done for years. So that's the first thing they have to work on. And, right away, within a couple of weeks, things start turning around, because they're now, to go from subconscious behavior, which is just, they don't think about it, they just do by impulse, and subconscious is ruling their life, to full conscious awareness of what you say, write, text, and do. That is a 4 to 6 month process, because we have to get them to be more consciously aware of all of it. So I describe it like a rainbow. You're like, I don't know what I don't know. And you can't change what you don't know, understand, or acknowledge, right? So this is a huge learning curve going up the rainbow. And that's where we're working together. I'm teaching all these skills, and then they start practicing them, and then their life balances out and it's getting better. And then when they've got it, it's like sliding down that rainbow into the pot of gold. It's easy. And then they look back after 6 months and say, I can't believe I was that person. I can't believe I lived my life like that. It's like a severe difference, or I should say dramatic, because it's a wonderful difference, right? Of where they were when they started to where they are afterwards. And they learn to communicate. They learn not to yell or blame, not to fight over stupid stuff that doesn't matter. Just say, hon, you're entitled to your opinion. We'll leave it at that. Be done with it. It's like people that have to win the argument. That's a problem.
Yeah.
So that we teach all kinds of communication skills for peace and safety, because going back to caveman, cave woman brain, cave woman, her number one need is safety. She's the child bearer. If she doesn't feel safe with her partner, she's going to detach emotionally, intimately, sexually. She just doesn't feel safe. She doesn't feel taken care of. Her cortisol is up. She's flying around doing 100 things, trying to take care of herself, her family, the home, whatever her job, whatever she's doing. So she's got to have this sense of peace about her. And men, their number one thing is attraction. And the reason is because men procreate the race. So that's their number one need. They want a woman that's attractive. So I say to my ladies who and men, who were you when you met? And when he's there, I'm no longer attracted to her. I'm like, well, to the lady, what did you look like when you met? Did you dress for your dates? Did you do your hair and makeup? Did you take care of yourself? Well, he's not feeling that now because you stopped doing all that. Why did you stop? Because you're married, and there was another man in my office. And he goes, well, what do I need to date her for? I married her. I said, well, do you still want sex?
Yes.
You got to keep romancing your woman. That doesn't stop because woman's intimacy levels start first in the brain and the five senses have to be turned on. She's not built like a man where he can think sex and then he can do it. It's like we start in the brain and then it flows down to our bodies. So if her cortisol is up so high and she can't get into that relaxation state of the five senses, then it's hard for her to have intimacy. So many people don't even know this. It's the differences of man, woman, and sexuality.
I just one of my big, I'm not sure if this translate, bugbears or hobby horses is I think as a society generally within sort of Western society, we are, and it's a word you use, we're less aware of things than we once were. And a couple of examples from that. So I think a lot of people will eat their meal watching television on their phone, whatever, not at the table with the family. And you get to the end of the day and say, what did you have to eat for dinner? Oh, well, I was
No.
Days meatloaf. Yeah, it must be meatloaf. You just don't even know. And otherwise, and also you see a lot of people at concerts, they're watching the concert through their phone, or they're walking down the street on their phone. And I went out with Gina, my dog, this morning for a walk, and didn't have my earpods in, didn't have the phone on, just literally walked around this beautiful forest or nature reserve near us, and it was so spectacular. But I thought, gosh, if I just had my head down looking at the few inches of screen in front of me, I wouldn't be aware of any of those things. If we can't be aware of these massive things, then being aware of small emotional cues that we should see, you can't expect people to. And I do fear that a lot of people that are growing up younger than us in society today, they're really going to struggle with that awareness and therefore ability to connect and therefore ability to communicate.
They do.
And I'm just not sure where that goes, because listen to the D's you had at the beginning, I think, gosh, how many 16, 17, 20, 25-year-olds now would have those determination, the desire, and all those things? And I'm sure some do, absolutely some do. But I just worry about our ability as people to hold a conversation.
It has been proven in many studies that young people, let's say in their 20s, are really having a hard time with job interviews.
Yes.
And communication as a couple. They're not used to it. They are in their phones all the time and in the fake life. Everybody's looking amazing on Facebook and doing all these wonderful things. And they're thinking, my life's not that fun, and you constantly see it. Oh, that was so much fun. That was so much fun. And it's like, really, was it? So you see that quite a bit, and it is hurting relationships. It is hurting quality time. It is hurting the everyday joys of life. Like when you go to the beach, why be on the phone? When you go to the park, like you were saying, listen to the sounds of nature.
Yeah.
The phone is very addictive. Very addictive. So parents must limit screen times for their kids. They are in control of the phone, not the child. I mean, we went to school with no phones. Like, why do they need them? I know our world is more dangerous today. I get that part. But otherwise, everybody's in their phones, especially from 40 down. And it's just really sad. A lot of children, little ones, are neglected or thrown a screen. Here, take care of yourself, occupy yourself. Here's a plastic toy with all screen stuff going, and they get addicted from a very young age. We didn't have that to give our children. We had to entertain them.
I know but when you, I've got a 15-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter, and when I talk to them about they've just been on holiday to Australia for three weeks. And I asked them about things they enjoyed the most, and it was my son learned to surf, my daughter went clubbing with some new Frenchmen in Australia, They went to a rescue sanctuary. All these things were things that they did, and they went to a yoga class and lots of different things. None of it was. Nobody's ever going to say, "I really enjoyed the 3 hours I spent on my phone scrolling through Facebook." They wouldn't even think of it. And they sort of came back and said, "Oh, we didn't use our phones when we were there because the time difference was too big to speak to people here. There was nothing. There was so many things to experience and absorb that it just that's what all the positive memories we have are made up of, things that we do. Nobody's ever going to say, "Oh, my favorite time of year is when I spend the time on the phone." It's when I go walk in the snow and it's cold. I go outside and it's too hot and I've forgotten a hat and I got my head burned. It was things that happen really.
And vacationing, like I'm a big vacation person. We're going to Portugal in a week and going away for this weekend for our anniversary. So, I love travel because that's a little bit of escape and time just to be together. There is no work worries. There's no phone. It's just you and me, babe. Right. And having those new experiences. We're big cruisers. Like we love to go on a cruise and just be out floating in the middle of the ocean and just experiencing life right then and there. So, I think a lot of people are missing that, having vacation time and looking forward to that. And, it's like some people I know make a ton of money and they never do anything. It's like, well, what's the point? If you're not traveling or doing something you love, what is the point of all the money? Just to see it sitting in the bank? And then what? Yeah.
So I was nervous to ask, but you did say then a couple of times, anniversary and going with your partner. So you did find
my love. Yes.
After some
engaged. Yes. We're happily engaged. We just bought a beautiful new home and really enjoyed remodeling that. We have a big group of friends in Southeast Florida, like 70 friends, singles and couples. They were my friends before I met Chris, and now he's part of this big group. So we have a very active social life on weekends, and then we like to travel a lot.
So what does you coined this phrase, I think. So what does emotionally healthy love look like and feel like?
Okay, well, I can name this from my book, Love Beyond Your Dreams. It's called the 5 F's that I start with. And this is part of the emotionally healthy relationship, but I think it will define a lot of them. So the first one is foundation, a solid foundation. It means the ability to trust yourself and trust the other, and you have confidence in who you are as a person. You've already built your own dream life. You're happy in the direction you're going. They're happy in what they're doing. And together you're a dynamo, or what they used to call the power couple. And you also share moral values. That's all foundation, taking your time to really get to know each other as friends first and not rushing into intimacy, which becomes then the fake relationship. The second one is flexibility. You're both open-minded, you're caring, understanding, emotionally open with each other and honest, and you allow that person to have their own opinion on things. Doesn't mean you don't have to agree on everything. You're two different people. So Top's trying to persuade, well, you got to vote for this president, or you need the vaccine, and because I got it, you have to have it. And, just stop forcing your opinions on people. The third one is fidelity, meaning you have honesty, you're loyal to your partner, and integrity, meaning doing the right things when nobody's looking. Very important one for long-term relationships. Next F is friendship. Your best friends, your buddies, you have fun together. You like to laugh, you go do adventures, you travel, you really have a good time doing various activities together. Fun is common interests, hobbies, shared activities. They don't all have to be that. He's a golfer. I'm really not. It's like, go golf, babe. Go ahead. I'm going to go do this. I'm a big reader at the beach. I enjoy doing that because I'm always studying, so those types of things. You can have your separate activities. Intimacy is a balance of love and deep friendship and daily affection, hugs and kisses, hello, goodbye, holding hands when you're just sitting watching TV. It's just, intimacy on a regular basis. Then there's compromise, your ability to negotiate through your differences and try and come up with a win-win. Always the ability to forgive and apologize quickly and easily. And not blame the other person constantly. If you're upset about something, take responsibility. Both are balanced individuals. Both partners have healthy self-esteem. They have their boundaries. They have purpose in their work life, and they enjoy that. And they both have a sense of gratitude. But the number one thing that was most important that a good couple shares is a sense of spirituality. And that does not mean religion. It just means who you are 24/7. You're spiritual. You have a belief and faith in something greater than yourself, whether you call it God, the divine, the universe, Buddha, whatever that may be. But it provides guidance and demands accountability for you to be the best that you can be. So with two people trying to be their best, emotionally healthy and evolved self, then two people together will have that in their relationship. So that is my definition of emotionally healthy, evolved, and conscious relationship. And you do think before you say, write, text, is this good for me and the other person? Yeah, and it just becomes automatic once you've practiced it enough, you know?
Yeah, I like that very much. When you've been set up on a date by a friend, or you've met somebody through Tinder or one of the apps or whatever, or you meet somebody for a coffee, you don't know all those things on the first few minutes of meeting somebody. So how do you, at the very least, I think in particular if people that have been single for a long time and sort of going for a first date, I can't imagine going for a first date again. I don't know what on earth I do. How do we help those people avoid the first date being a car crash? Because you're not going to know everything on the first date. You're not going to marry somebody on day one, but you can easily completely blow it on day one. So how do you? Yeah, I think if you answer that question,
it's called a lot of people. Book to Love for a reason, and in section 4, it has the top 24 questions you should be asking your date on date 1 or 2. Yes, knowledge is power, and most people actually do not know how to date. And it's funny because I did meet Chris on a dating app, Match.com. And my friend James, I was single for a while, building my coaching business to go global. And I said, you know what? It's time for me to find my partner. He goes, just like that, Riana, you're going to find your partner? I'm like, yeah, it won't take me long. I'm just going to go on Match and take me a few weeks. That's it. So he laughs. Well, I went on August. I said, it's August 1st. That's how I remember the date. Let's see how long it takes me to find my partner. And within a few days, Chris wrote me and I wrote him back, and we decided to meet for 1 hour for a drink. And we ended up closing that place with conversation and went to another place and closed that. And then he said, can I see you this weekend? And we went out Friday. Can I see you Saturday? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I have plans, which I did with my 70 group of friends that I already committed to. And so I started in those processes of asking him the questions. But I do tell all those people that I teach how to date successfully. And I actually have a course called Success in Dating. What are the questions you should be asking, and what are the answers you're looking for? And what is good about that person, and what might be coming up about that person that you know this is not my partner? And you have to be very consciously aware, you know, and it's not like it's an interview, it's everyday questions, but you're listening for certain things. And when you are fully aware and educated on what is childhood trauma, what is love trauma, did they heal from that? Have they gone through coaching work to heal from that? Are they still carrying grudges or anger about their mom or their dad or their last partner, you know, or have they healed from that and just moved on? You know, these are the things that you want to identify early on. So usually by the third date, if you're accepting a third date and everything is good after that, that's when you do a background check. You have to do a background check in today's world. It's too shady, unfortunately. But, you know, you can have that reassurance. Okay, great. Everything's cool. Everything's clear. Keep moving forward. So, yeah, there's definitely a system to it.
There is. Well, so what did your friends say when you came back and said, well, this is Chris? Yeah, it took me a few days.
Well, it was not a few dates. I wanted to make sure we were exclusive first before he met the friend group. He was a little bit more conservative than me. And we even had this conversation. He had very short, spiky hair. And I said, would you grow your hair? I happen to like longer hair on a man. And then I said, you have date clothes? He goes, well, I have golf shirts and I have suits. And I said, so nothing in between? He goes, I don't think so. So I'm there. We need to do some shopping. So before you meet the friends and my 5 guys who are like my brothers,
Yeah.
you want to feel like you fit in because these guys are very fashionable.
Mhm.
I met them on a cruise. We do a lot of cruises and go to dance parties together, and they always look very nice, when they're with dates or out in the big group. So I said, we all dress a certain way. He goes, yes, show me. So he had a very open mind to that. He wanted to know, what do they wear? How can he fit in? So that's what we did. We did shopping. And then when we knew that we wanted to be exclusive, it's like time to meet the friends and pass the friend test. And they all loved him, like right off the bat. So by then I had known him well, and he was comfortable with me, and he felt really great about his new clothes and felt confident to meet my friends as well. And so now he's part of the big, massive group that we have that goes out here. Yeah. So my friends have become his close friends too.
Oh, fabulous.
Very
he
nice.
he must have been quite secure on himself in the beginning. But if you're going to date and you're talking to dates, so what do you do? Oh, well, I'm a love relationship dating coach. And you're on a first date with somebody, it's like, okay, is she judging me? Is she scoring me under the table?
Well,
Yeah,
a lot of men did ask me that. Are you analyzing me since you're a therapist? I'm like, no, I'm off the clock. I'm here to relax.
yeah, you're not playing me.
Yeah, because I'm a very happy person. I'm very smiley. I'm very high energy, love music. And it's like, I don't even think about that. I have learned this is my work life. This is my personal life. I learned to just totally separate the two.
Mm.
So, yeah, I've got asked that a lot. It's like, no, but am I? Probably.
Well, subliminally, you can't help it, I guess. So how important would you say that intimate or sexual compatibility is in a long-term happy relationship?
Yeah, you have to be really open to discussing anything and everything.
Mhm.
At our age, you have to be comfortable with talking about menopause and change of life and change of hormones and how are you feeling? And well, let's see if we can change that, working together as a team, being creative, in and out of the bedroom. Sex should only be in the bedroom. It should be more fun and more adventuresome. So what can you do to keep the flames burning, so to speak? That's why we like a lot of mini trips away, to tap back into just us and our romantic side. And, so you're always, I hate to use the word working on the relationship because I don't think it's work. I would say playing with the relationship. You have to keep playing and having fun and having great adventures. So, we picked a town. Let's go here. We've never been here before. Let's figure out what's there, So that's what we're going to do this weekend. We're picking somewhere new to explore.
Mm.
So, keeping things new and fresh and travel, vacations, all of that is all good. Yeah.
I think a lot of the time, if we just mentally replace the word sex with the word pleasure, I think things will be quite different. So often, as men get older, sometimes we have problems getting erect or staying hard for long enough or whatever. And I think if we fixate on the sex as being in vagina and that's it. If I can't do that, I failed. Whereas pleasure, and I said to you before, and I love brushing women's hair. My wife's hair. My wife only, obviously. And I love, kissing and holding and touching and stroking and holding hands. All those things incredible.
That's all intimacy.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't have to be, oh my goodness, I don't know, I used to worry I couldn't get it up last time. Can I get it up this time? The partner's thinking, I'm menopause, I'm feeling a bit dry.
Men are worried about it much more than women care about it. Like we don't really care that much. If it didn't happen tonight, that's all right, babe. Next time. Like it's just no big deal. You have to like give your partner grace, as I call it, and just like, it's all right, hon. Like there's going to be times she wants you and he doesn't want her, because their moods are mismatched. It's like, it's okay. There's no reason to be mad at your partner. It's like, we'll do it another time. Why argue over that? It only puts stress into the marriage. Just keep it light, keep it fun, keep it playful, keep it pleasure, and make sure it's about just, quality time with each other, really.
It's all about communication again, isn't it? If you can just talk
Yeah.
about things and
Yeah.
listen to each other, I think it helps so much. So what are the things that I always, I don't know, I always worry about or get concerned about? People that do a job like yours or the job that you do, you obviously hear a lot of difficult things. You might hear some terribly traumatic things that people could only imagine. And what practices do you have to avoid almost carrying the trauma yourself? Because you want to be there, you want
Yeah.
to really be present, really listen to that person, but then when you leave the room or you leave the conversation or whatever, you don't want to then carry it with you. So how do you, emotionally and physically, how do you sort of release the trauma you've heard?
Yeah, well, we have a beautiful pool and hot tub out back. So
That sounds
I
kind.
like a hot tub if I'm feeling a little stressed. I
Mhm.
do deep tissue massage like once every 2 weeks. I do love music and dancing. So we go out and dance every weekend. That's the way I get rid of a ton of stress. But I really have learned to keep it very separate. When I'm with my clients, I am straight on and totally involved. And when I walk away, it's done. It's in my office. It's done for the day.
Mhm.
Um, to me, it's my mindset on they're venting because they want my help and my suggestions. So I'm there to help.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I have to absorb all of that. If I see my couples really struggling, yeah, I'm like, oh, they were doing so good. I got to get them back on track.
Yeah.
So, I do care, and I'm thinking, what new or what could I say differently to break through this impasse I just had come up. Um, and a lot of times with my couples, I separate them. I do her healing her trauma, partner two healing their trauma, and then the relationship trauma. So if someone's acting up, I'll
Mhm.
have a single session with them and say, hey, what's going on for you? We got to stop this. Your head has to think something different. You got to stop this jealousy and control stuff. You're losing your woman. You think you're holding on. You're not. You're losing her. So I will be very much like a coach. You think of a football coach, you're doing this, you're doing that, it's not working. We got to do this instead. And they're very trusting that I can get them back to that place. So they very are open heart, open minded. When they work with me, they trust me. They know I've been doing this a really long time and that I have my goal is to keep the couple together in every way possible. But of course, if there's any kind of abuse, then the one partner will probably have to go on. The emotionally healthier partner should not stay in an abusive relationship, at all. So, but especially if there's children, I say, have you tried everything before you break up the marriage? You say you've been to counseling. You didn't do coaching yet. You
Yeah.
did not do love trauma recovery coaching. I can tell you that because these patterns are still going on in your relationship, even though you said you had 6 years of therapy. It didn't work. Okay. So let's do something that works. And now they're more accountable because they have to do their worksheets and they're practicing certain skills that they're learning. And with practice comes change, or perfection. And they learn with time that I can get this, I can change, I can feel better about myself because I'm no longer yelling. I'm no longer yelling at my partner. I'm able to talk things through and be more loving and more kind. And then that self-esteem goes up, right? So it helps in every life area once they have the trauma recovery coaching. It's quite amazing.
You've been so generous with your time and what you've told us, and I can't wait to listen back now. And I would highly recommend people go to your website. But my final question, I think, has to be: you've already achieved more than many groups of people that I know. Do you still have? Here's what I want to get done in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Are there more books that you want to put out? More workbooks? More what do you see the next? Yeah, the next
Yeah.
kids holding.
Well, since I turned 50, I've been very much into what do I want my retirement to look like, right? So I've been diversifying what I do. I have several jobs. I'm also Reverend Riana. I do marriages. I have taught at the university. I own 2 rental properties. I am very much into the stock market and dividend funds and precious metals. I study all of that. I study finance. So I'm very diversified that way. And as I'm nearing retirement, I would like to teach junior coaches to do my method that is trademarked. I'd like to have people under me so that I'm more the supervisor and they are doing the method. So I'm getting that book together now. Will I write more books? Probably. I am in the midst of writing my trauma recovery book. So I'm over 100 pages now. The problem I have so much information. How do I keep it in 250 pages? Yes. I'm like, okay, how am I going to do this? So I'm working on that book. That would be my next major book that would be coming out on healing childhood and love trauma. But yeah, I still actively see clients and I do love working with my clients. They're amazing people. And because I've been doing this so long, over so many years, I've seen that my younger people get married and have their babies, and couples that were like on the fault line, still together 16 years later, because I worked with them in 2006. So 20 years later, they're still together. So it's nice to see that the work I've done so many years ago is still, these couples are together. In coaching, when they graduate, they're allowed to be on my Facebook page. Therapy, they can't. Okay. There's all these therapy rules. Coaching, I can coach around the world. Therapy can only do that in Florida State. So therapy is very limiting, but with coaching, they can come on my website. I get to see their growth and their change as they make their posts, and they can see what's up in my life, and they can call me because they know I never forget them. It's like, hey, Riana, I need one session. No problem. Let's go. What is it that you need? So they would come back for, a boost if they need something, or if they're struggling with their partner on a topic, they can always come back to me. So it's really nice. It's like this big extended conscious family. And they can identify when people that they know have childhood or love trauma and say, you know what, I think you need to meet my coach, Riana. You're struggling here. You're not getting over your past breakup of 2 years ago. And it's time, to create the life you desire and have the love you deserve. That is my slogan. It's because that's what I do for everyone that I work with. What is your dream life? And let's create it for you. So it's really fulfilling. So I think that would be my next project, is getting my junior coaches trained, and then I ease out. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think retirement quite means the same to you as to most people. For most people, retirement is moving out of Florida, sitting by the pool, going browner.
Well, I got the pool and I got the beach
already. Yeah, you've got
shins, right? So I'm all about that life balance, and that's what I teach my clients. So when they hear I'm going away, they get it. It's like, well, that's what she teaches. She does what she teaches. So yes, I do plan in that fun time every week and vacations regularly. And then in between, I do my work for, my VIP coaching clients, and then a couple therapy clients if I have space. Yeah, that's how it usually works. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a fabulous time in Portugal. It is an amazing place.
Thank you. So nice to get to know you and chat with you. And I hope we helped our listeners learn some things.
Yeah, and I would absolutely direct them to your website because there's just so much there. The quizzes are great. The programs are fascinating. There's just so much there. So I encourage people. And I'll put lots of links into the notes and things. So
okay. Yeah, it's rianamilne.com if anyone's listening. And my podcast is Lessons in Life and Love with Coach Riana Milne. My YouTube channel have over 350 audios and videos under Riana Milne. And what else, Andrew? Free
books to look at. So people should dig up the books, the work, everything. You're a whole. It's the sort of Riana Milne industry, not an individual. You're an industry.
Thank you so much.
But yeah, thank you so much. I'll let you go, and we'll stay in touch hopefully.
Thank you. Let's do that. Bye. Thanks, Andrew. Bye-bye.